So you have to make sure that you tell the stories first that are related to the job you're going to do. I think recruiters, they want to know that you can do the job, or you did the job before is even better, because explaining transferable skills, it's challenging.
Thank you, Andre, for your time today. Really appreciate it. Would you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Young. Super excited to join this conversation and talk a little bit about my background and how I got into gaming. So I'm originally from Brazil, where I did my undergraduation in business, and I spent like around 6 years working. In my last position in Brazil, I was working. I had a team of 7 analysts and was working in the energy industry with customer service operations. So in 2015, I moved to United States for my MBA, University of North Carolina, Kenneth Flagler Business School, which was an awesome time. I really enjoyed. And I did my internship at PlayStation, which was like unbelievable. It was just a great experience. I'm a huge gamer, and I was working more specifically with the PlayStation Store, pricing, promotions, merchandising, everything related to selling the digital games on the PlayStation Store for all Latin America. So after going into gaming, I wanted to continue working into gaming, even considering that during my MBA, I was trying to go into consulting. But having this experience at PlayStation completely changed my mind. So I wanted to go into tech. So I graduated in 2017. It was a little hard at that time because changes in the visa processing anyways, ended up in a startup working with sales, which I had like zero background, but it was also great to learn like sales skills, and I made like a lot of friends at that experience. So I was working with like CRM SaaS software, right? Selling those kinds of products. I spent around 1 year, and then I moved to a small startup, very similar to Twitch, live streaming, but focused on mobile games. And after a very brief experience there, I joined Google in the new product, Google Stadia. So Stadia is a cloud gaming platform, meaning you don't need any hardware to play. You just access the internet, you need a screen, the internet, and you play. And I remember joining in 2019. It was it's kind of a long process to join Google. But I remember arriving the first day, and someone gave me this controller, brought me to this room. It was like this huge TV, and then start like playing Doom, the game. And I was like, wow, man, this is like unbelievable. This technology is so like amazing, So it was like mind blowing at that time, So I spent around 2 years working as a product strategy and operations for the Google Stadia Store. Everything again related to sales of games, digital games on the Stadia Store. There's a lot of operations, a lot of product, and a lot of strategy also involved in this one. Last year, I moved to program manager on Google Play Store, also the store, but now focus on mobile, right? And managing different programs inside the Play Store. And more recently, I moved to product specialist role, which is more focused on being the specialist in a given product, also in Google Play, and working with 3 different products, which is loyalty, Play Pass, and there's another product that I can't mention right now, but super exciting. I love working with product. That's like just a brief explanation of my background.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And it seems like you have, a lot of experience in the gaming industry, especially coming from PlayStation and now in like Stadia and like Google. Um, Let me ask you, like, what was your first reaction when you first got the job offer from Google?
Well, it was almost like unbelievable, right? Because at that point, I was like trying to find something, a different role, because my previous role, I actually was laid off. And the startup was not performing very well. They changed like the strategy, and I was like laid off very briefly after I was hired. So it was like a very hard time for me. But I focused like very, very much on getting something that I would enjoy, even considering I didn't have any job at the time. But I mean, I wanted to be in games, in the gaming industry. And I remember getting this invitation to the interview at Google. And I remember like studying so much about everything you can ever imagine about games, especially the new technology like cloud gaming.
Yep.
So at some point I was like the expert, I knew like everything about cloud gaming, about games. And during my interview, we had like the regular interview, Google, which includes like case questions, includes like behavioral questions and star format, right? That we all know. But there was a lot of like specific to the industry, like I think showing that I was like very passionate, that I knew like everything about games was very useful for my interview. Also, like showing the experience that I had at PlayStation and how that could like relate and transfer to the Google Stadia product. I think it was like very helpful also. And I remember like after the interview with the interviewers, we stayed like 15, 20 minutes still like talking about games. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was awesome, you know. And I remember when I got the job, I was like so excited because that was like what I really wanted to do, you know, working with a digital store, a very cool company such as Google in a new product. So I was part of the release team of Google Stadia, which was a lot of challenge, but like very exciting.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned something about, the applying and like getting into Google. Would you
Mhm.
mind telling me a little bit about your process of getting into the company? Like, did you have a referral? What was the interview process look like? And a little bit more about those parts?
Sure. So I actually I did get a referral, and I remember in the referral you can like select the types, the roles that you can apply, right? Kind of give you like the chance to select the roles. And I remember I was not finding like very interesting roles at that time, um, but I applied anyway because I had a referral, right? And then the recruiter reached out saying, "Hey, Andre, I saw that you applied for like a couple of roles. Those roles they don't exist anymore, but I think
Mm.
you might like these ones." And she sent me like a few, you know. And I analyzed it and said, "Wow, this one's like perfect for me. That's like the right fit, you know. That's exactly what I did on PlayStation before." So I reached out to her and said, "Look, yeah, I'm super interested in this position. I think it very well aligned with what I want and my skills." So I went from there, you know. And I had like one call with the recruiter after I select the role. And then I had another call with someone in the team. And after that, I went to the on-site interview process, which were around 5 interviews plus like a lunch. We had like a lunch with a team member. And they were like mostly behavioral. Uh, One was case specific, and many of them were like with team members and very specific to games also. So I think like having a deep knowledge into gaming was very helpful. And also like, as I mentioned, I studied like super hard because I wanted to be like the specialist. I wanted to do well in the interview. And I think that helped a lot, you know. And I was able like to leverage 4 months of my experience on PlayStation internship to get this full-time role in Google in the same capacity, but I think I was pretty successful in doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. How was the interview? Was it like just behavioral questions, or did you have any like, strategy or kind of case questions as well?
Yeah, so I remember the first interview was completely like case related, right? They gave me
Oh,
like
okay.
a situation. You have sales for this software in country A and country B, they're like very different. How do you analyze why sales are underperforming in this given country and what would you do? You know, so it was like just that case in the first interview. The second one was like with someone at a higher level at Google, but completely unrelated to the Stadia business, right? And this person was trying to understand if I would be like a good fit in terms of like googliness that they call like, and also in terms of culture, if I would like be a fit for the company, right? It was mostly behavioral questions, nothing at all related to business, only how will they approach the situation, and tell me about a time, things like that. And the other ones, I think it was like 3 or 4 interviews, and they were like very focused on gaming in the industry, on strategy, competition, talking about
Mhm.
PlayStation, Microsoft, Xbox, Nintendo, everything related to the gaming industry. Very focused on product also, like what are the needs of the business, how do we
Yeah.
increase sales in the digital games world. So it was like very, very focused on that part of the business. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, that sounds interesting. So you now work as a product specialist at,
Correct.
Google. Um, could you please tell me a little bit about like what you do as a product specialist?
Yes. I just want to like go a little bit back
Yeah, please.
to like kind of describe my
Yeah.
path in Google, right? So after I worked for almost 2 years on Google Stadia, and I was in product operations there. And product operations is basically you define the features of the product that you want to develop in order to better operate and better serve the customers, right? So the product in this case was the Stadia store. So what are we going to build next? Should we build like notifications for the users? Should we build like coupons for discounts? And also like in the back end, let's say, how can we provide discounts for the users? Which kind of tools we need, you know? So also shaping a little bit the strategy of the business. So this is product operations, product strategy and operations. Then I moved to program management. Program management is very similar to project management. The difference is that program is something that is a project that never ends, actually. Like, just keep going, you know? So you set like the OKRs. We have a lot of this setting, like the goals and the OKRs for the quarter. You work with software engineers, with operation teams, with merchandising teams, with a lot of stakeholders to make sure that we achieve those OKRs, those goals that we define. And many of them are creating new features in the product. I can give you one example. I was working with quality for games and apps. So how can we show only good quality games in the Play Store? So that was like one of the OKRs we had. How can we make sure that only the good games are shown in the store? Because we have like tons of games and app submissions. So that was like program management. It's more like stakeholder management and project management, right? And recently I moved to product specialist, which is very similar to product operations, but a little less strategy. It's more like being the expert on a given product. I have to know like everything about that thing, you know? And I'm working more closely to the partnership teams, and I'll explain. Imagine we have like a deal with like a partner, and they want to provide Google Play Pass, which is a Google product, which is a subscription for games and apps. You sign for $5, you have many games and many apps. So imagine we have a partner, let's say Samsung. They want to provide that for all the Samsung Galaxy users. So we have a partnership. So there I have to understand and evaluate how can we make sure we have the tools and we make the change in the product so we can enable this partnership to happen. It's less strategy because the strategy is kind of like defined and arrived to me, and I have to define the strategy of the product, how we want to make sure this works by enabling this partnership to happen.
Gotcha. No, that makes total sense. And thank you so much for going over you know, the definition and like, you know, the past roles that you had. You moved from the startup that you worked before and then you moved to Google. When you first joined Google, like was there any sort of learning curve? And like if yes, like how did you actually try to overcome those?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, yeah. Because I remember joining Google and the first reaction I had was like, wow, this is like so cross-functional. Like everyone is involved in everything, and everything you need to do, you have to involve everyone, you know? It kind of felt like overwhelming in a way also. But Google, they set like the expectations in a way that they don't expect you to perform like at full capacity, at least for like the first 6 months, you know? You arrive and you have a plan, and they expect you to actually bringing value to the company, not like immediately. They understand that you have like a curve, you know? I think like working with the collaborative tools like Google Sheets and all the other Google Suite apps was kind of like adjustment because I was always used to do like Excel and Word and all the stuff and kind of working offline. But once you start learning and the potential that those tools they have, you know, it's like unbelievable and such great collaborative tools, and Google is investing super heavily in improving those tools because they're not only we use internally, but we sell, of course, right? But you have to be very proactive, I think, you know, like reaching out to people to learn the processes. You have to insert yourself in the processes. That was like one of the things that I did when I joined Stadia. My role was like very open, you know. They had an idea. Look, you're going to be part of the transaction business on Google Stadia, selling games. But it was not very specifically what I need to do, you know? And because I had a lot of knowledge in pricing promotions, I kind of inserted myself in this like part of the business and start like developing my role from there, you know. So I think you have to be very proactive. But people in the company, they're like super nice and super cool. You just have to reach out to them. They're going to be helpful and explaining you the processes and including you, but you have to ask, you know. They're not going to be doing that just like proactively. You have to go and seek for that. And once you do
Yep.
that, they're going to be helping you.
Gotcha. No, that makes total sense. So what do you like the most and what do you like the least about your role?
What I like the most is that it's very close to product, and I think it's super cool. You know, in my team, I have like product managers and product specialists. In a way, I take care more of like the business side of the feature that we're creating, not much the technical side, and that's something that I enjoy a lot. But also like it's very ambiguous in a way because we're always like there's like hundreds of thousands of ways to do the same thing, you know, with different tools and different ways to enable a given feature. But I've been in this role for like a couple of months now, which is very similar to my old role. And so far, I'm liking like everything in the role, you know. That's nothing that I dislike. Previously on the program management, I think I was not liking the part that I didn't like own a part of the process. I kind of own everything, but nothing at the same time, you know. I have
Gotcha.
like to supervise all the project, like all the initiatives in the quality project, but at the same time, I don't have the actual ownership. And you have to be good with that also because you have to influence a lot without being the actual owner. And right now, as a product specialist, I own the features and I own like the business case that's gonna
Mhm.
like be submitted to enable a given feature. That's the part that I really enjoy, like working with product and the change in the product that is gonna like improve the overall quality.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I think that's just like how things are defined as like program manager versus like product roles and stuff.
Yeah,
So I totally get it. Hey, it's already my last question, but advice for those who want to join Google as a product role.
yeah, and that's a great question, you know, because there's like several ways you can land, let's say, in a product manager role. Product is like it's a large corporation, right? And you have like different roles inserted inside this product, you know.
Mm,
And what I see, people who want to like transfer to product manager inside Google, many times they're like just in a position like mine, they're product specialists, or they're like product operations. And many times they do like rotations inside Google that they can try a new role as a product manager, and then they can move to the product manager role after the end of the rotation. But I guess my advice is, first of all, if you can get a referral, it's a very good idea because you're gonna put your resume in front of the recruiter. The second thing is, one thing that I learned is whenever I had like in my resume that very cool story and I plan to tell that story in the interview, and that was like my best story, you know, but it was like so unrelated to the job that it doesn't make any sense to tell that story, you know.
mm,
So you have to make sure that you tell the stories first that are related to the job you're going to do. I think recruiters, they want to know that you can do the job or you did the job before is even better, you know, because explaining transferable skills, it's challenging, you know. So whenever you position yourself as someone who knows what is in the job description
uh-huh.
and you're an expert, you know, like study a lot, like get to know everything related to that specific word that is that role, you know. And that's what I did, you know. I spent like hours like studying games and studying cloud technology and studying industry. So when I arrived to the interview, I was like so comfortable. I was speaking like things that I knew. I was like discussing with the interviewers things that I already knew and liked to discuss, you know. So that felt super natural for me and gave me like a good advantage in the interviews.
Gotcha. No, that makes total sense. Hey, those are all the questions, Andre. Thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate your time and your insight.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much for inviting. Had a lot of fun like speaking a little bit about gaming and yeah, thank you.
Thank you.